Are you tired of the establishment media distorting current events and peddling fake news to fit their geopolitical agenda? The Newsbud Academy is now offering information-packed online courses that will set the record straight on a number of important issues of the day. Beginning on June 10th, Professor Philip Kovacevic will present a lecture series, Foundations of Anglo-American and Russian Geopolitics. This lecture examines in detail the opposing geopolitical vision of Russian scholars and military officers, and offers material that has never before been presented in English and is largely unknown to American audiences. The registration deadline for this important lecture ends on May 10th, so make sure to sign up today. Please visit our website for more information. Newsbud, where media integrity matters.
The president has a new national security advisor tonight. He named Army Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster today, a week after retired General Michael Flynn was forced out and after the first choice for a replacement turned it down. Retired Army Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg will serve as the Security Council's chief of staff. Mr. Trump made the announcement at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida.
He's a man of tremendous talent and tremendous experience. I watched and read a lot over the last 2 days. He is highly respected by everybody in the military, and we're very honored to have him.
I'd just like to say what a privilege it is to be able to continue serving our nation. I'm grateful to you for that opportunity, and I look forward to joining the national security team and doing everything I can to advance and protect the interests of the American people. Thank you very much, sir.
You're going to do a great job.
On April 8th, video blogger Mike Cernovich said President Trump's national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, is pushing for combat troops in Syria to topple Bashar al-Assad.
H.R. McMaster is manipulating intelligence reports to Trump, wants 150,000 ground soldiers in Syria. Current National Security Advisor Herbert Raymond to H.R. McMaster is manipulating intelligence reports given to President Donald Trump, Cernovich Media can now report. McMaster is plotting how to sell a massive ground war in Syria to President Trump with the help of disgraced former CIA director and convicted criminal David Petraeus.
The story was ignored by the establishment media, with one notable exception, Eli Lake writing for Bloomberg News. Senior White House officials told Lake McMaster is pushing for a ground war in Syria. They said the move is opposed by Trump's National Security Cabinet, known as the Principals Committee, specifically Secretary of Defense James Mattis, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Joseph Dunford, and General Joseph Votel, who is in charge of the U.S. Central Command. Because Trump's strategy on the Islamic State appears to be in disarray, it was taken up by the Policy Coordinating Committee, the interagency group hosted at the State Department. Trump said the United States will stay out of Syria. In fact, the United States is already in Syria and has been since at least 2014, when Obama went back on his promise not to put boots on the ground. He made the promise on numerous occasions.
I will not put American boots on the ground in Syria. We should not be drawn once more into a long and costly ground war. It will not involve American combat troops fighting on foreign soil. The resolution we've submitted today does not call for the deployment of U.S. ground combat forces to Iraq or Syria. Putting boots on the ground, I think, would be a profound mistake.
In 2016, Obama quintupled the number of troops. The actual number, however, is unknown.
And I just don't understand what the president is doing. Why he wants to engage more, but you know, it's not my call. I've been told there are many more forces in Iraq than we're publicly announcing. including even some elements of one of our airborne divisions. What the hell? As usual, we don't really know what the game plan is. I do not understand why he's decided to jump into a war that was being run by, it's being won right now by the Syrian army and its allies, including Russia. I could just speculate that our anti-Putin, anti-Russian instinct in America continues apace, that's all.
Jack Keane, a retired 4-star Army general who's close to McMaster, told Lake he favors a less drastic approach. He'd begin a military operation along the Euphrates River Valley, establish a base of U.S. operations, and work with Sunni Arab coalition partners to get rid of Assad and fight against the Islamic State. Cernovich claims McMaster is feeding Trump manipulated intelligence reports and is attempting to sell him on a full-blown invasion with the help of the disgraced former CIA director and convicted criminal David Petraeus.
What you have in Syria is a very destructive cycle of violence, perpetuated by ISIS, obviously, but also by this regime and their Iranian and Russian sponsors. And so what we have to be able to do is to work together with our allies and partners to help resolve this conflict. And the resolution of the conflict will entail each of the elements that you're talking about, Chris. The defeat of ISIS, and then also it has to be a significant change in the nature of the Assad regime and its behavior in particular.
H.R. McMaster's aggressive attitude toward the manufactured conflict in Syria shouldn't come as a surprise. He's the author of Dereliction of Duty, Lyndon Johnson, Robert McNamara, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Lies That Led to Vietnam.
Right there, Chris. It's a classic. I'm hawking it right here on your show.
Dereliction of Duty, a very in-depth look at the decision-making that went into the Vietnam conflict and McMaster's analysis of the same.
Yeah, it's a great book. It's about not only the decision-making, but the lies that were told between the civilians and the military and to the president. So I think it's an indicator of how HR feels about the civil-military relationships and how he wants to get it right.
In the book, he argues that Johnson, his Defense Secretary McNamara, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff failed to provide a successful plan for defeating the North Vietnamese and winning the war. He writes that Johnson should have committed 700,000 troops, imposed no restrictions on ground operations in South Vietnam, and allowed unrestricted targeting of North Vietnam for bomb attacks, including MiG fighter bases and ports where Soviet and Chinese military personnel would have likely been killed. The problem with the Vietnam War, according to McMaster, was the generals didn't assert themselves over the president and the civilian leadership. Trump read McMaster's book, or more likely the Cliff Notes version. Following the cruise missile attack on the airfield in Syria, McMaster told Fox News Trump is focused on taking out Bashar al-Assad and his government. He also said Putin and Russia are responsible for the behavior of Assad. The Trump administration and the establishment ignored the fact the United States is largely responsible for the situation in Syria by initiating the rebellion against Assad during the so-called Arab Spring and working with the Gulf states to fund and arm jihadis, including al-Nusra and the Islamic State. According to the U.S. government and its media, however, the rebels are moderate, not radical Salafists.
So what you need to know. It is a fact that since 2012, those so-called moderate rebels in Syria have been absorbed into al-Qaeda groups or pledged allegiance to ISIS. And for the past year, the moderates, they have been gone. So when media only calls these groups freedom fighters, and yet these fighters have pledged themselves to al-Qaeda and to ISIS, then no, make no mistake, they are not looking to make Syria free. They are looking to enslave it, as they have in so many other places.
While the establishment media has fawned over McMaster and praised his appointment, it has ignored his record in Iraq, where he served as the commander of the U.S. Army's military police. The media portrays him as the hero of Tal Afar and a genius of counterinsurgency, while ignoring complaints regarding the treatment of detainees in Iraq. Detainees were deprived of food and water for days while bound together with plastic handcuffs, Hundreds were also held without shelter in violation of military law. In a detention camp designed to hold 250 detainees, then-Colonel McMaster held over 900 people in brutal conditions. They were left outdoors without food, water, or shelter from the sun in their own feces and urine. A provost marshal was sent to investigate the detention facility, but nothing came of it.
General McMaster has a stellar reputation, not just as a military officer and leader, but as a very, very thoughtful national security specialist.
McMaster was promoted to Brigadier General in August of 2009 by his friend, General David Petraeus. Following Cernovich's expose, McMaster took to the media to dispel the suggestion he favors sending thousands of troops to Syria. He played up the offensive on Raqqa by Syrian Democratic Forces and said U.S. troops may not be necessary. McMaster may fall back on his original plan, however. The SDF is racked by internal conflicts. Turkey has tried to incite tensions between Arab and Kurdish elements within the organization. Following Trump's missile attack, McMaster said possible military action may be required. He said it's difficult to understand how a political solution to the crisis will be reached with Assad still in power. He said the president will make whatever decision is necessary to protect the American people, including military action. Trump's Secretary of State Rex Tillerson also said the administration is pushing to remove Assad.
Assad's role in the future is uncertain, clearly, and with the acts that he has taken, it would seem that there would be no role for him to govern the Syrian people.
The Pentagon said it won't inform the American people about troop deployments in Iraq and Syria. On March 30th, a Pentagon spokesman said troops will be deployed without public debate or congressional approval. McMaster confirmed this during an interview with ABC News on April 16th.
Well, the president's made very clear that he is not in the business of announcing in advance exactly what he's going to do in any particular situation. And I think what you saw last week with the president's decisive response to the Assad regime's mass murder of innocent people, including children with chemical weapons, that this national security team is capable of rapidly responding to those sorts of crises or incidents and events and providing the president with options. And our president is clearly comfortable making tough decisions and responding.
But the military option's still on the table?
Oh, all options are on the table, undergoing refinement and further development.
And how close?
Trump's love for generals and the military provides us with a preview of things to come. His Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, fondly called Mad Dog by his friends and admirers, is a former CENTCOM commander. He's obsessed with Iran and believes it's the world's biggest sponsor of state terrorism. In addition to Mattis and McMaster, Trump has tapped Keith Kellogg as a national security advisor at the NSC. Kellogg served in Vietnam, was a Special Forces advisor to the Cambodian Army, and was Chief of Staff for the 82nd Airborne Division during the first Iraq invasion. Mike Pompeo, Trump's CIA director, is a West Point graduate and a former Cold War-era Army tank officer. Like Mattis, he is a fierce critic of Iran and a strong supporter of Israel's Likud government. He promises to roll back the Iran deal and increase surveillance of the American people. Although Trump and his generals dialed back their rhetoric following the Syria attack, they remain committed to using military power to impose political solutions. Trump said as much during a White House meeting in February.
This is a landmark event, a message to the world in these dangerous times of American strength, security, and resolve. We must ensure that our courageous servicemen and women have the tools they need to deter war, and when called upon to fight in our name, only do one thing: win. We have to win. We have to start winning wars again.
Trump said the United States has spent trillions in the Middle East, and it's worse off than it was 17 years ago. The strike on Syria on April 7th is a preview of the sort of action the United States will use to impose a political solution, not only in the Middle East, but also on North Korea and Africa. Donald Trump is our new war president. Even the establishment media is surprised how quickly he surrounded himself with military men. His aggressive personality and eagerness to attack his political enemies during the election served as a warning of things to come. Almost immediately after assuming office, he stepped up bombing in Iraq, which resulted in hundreds of civilian deaths. He also conducted a raid in Yemen that killed dozens of civilians, including an 8-year-old American girl.
For just a small subscription fee, you can become a member of the Newsbud community and help keep this website running. Your subscription will provide you with full community access to exclusive content, including videos and articles from Newsbud's team of experts and analysts, as well as a members-only monthly newsletter from Newsbud's founder, Sibel Edmonds. Sign up today for full access at newsbud.com.